Zwom. Doot, 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 doot. BMO.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Fact About Fiction video. So, one of the most exciting stories from history is the 11th century BC story of what happened in the Valley of Elah, and that's the story of David and Goliath, of course. Although most of Hollywood and science thinks the Bible isn't real or historical and is only a book full of fairy tales and fictions, they definitely use the stories an awful lot to make millions in the box office, don't they? What? Yeah, it's true. It's true. Now, the story goes down in the movies almost always incorrectly according to the original accounts. They get a bunch of stuff wrong, like showing both David and Goliath in Roman clothing and armor, using Greek weapons possibly, both speaking English, David missing several shots at Goliath with his sling, Goliath coming at David with a shield and a sword. The list goes on. So this is a drawing I did based on the description of Goliath in the Bible and his armor, Philistine armor, and based on what they describe he was wearing, he's actually not just a foot soldier. He's actually a charioteer. So maybe he rode one of those chariots with two horses in front. And so there you go. Recently, Hollywood and science also are saying that Goliath was no more than 6.5 feet tall and was not a giant, but yet he was kind of deformed, and that's why people were scared of him, like he had gigantism and swollen body parts or something. Well, they've come too late to tell me this one because the king at the time, Saul, was around 6.5 feet tall. He was a head and shoulders above everyone else, and he was an awesome fighter too. So he would have seen a deformed guy come out there that could barely lift his own shield, and so he had to have a shield helper. He would have went down there and killed him himself, and everybody would have praised the King Saul, and that would have been the story. According to historical accounts, though, Goliath was over 9 feet tall, and just like to note that he wasn't the only giant out there in the Philistine army, and he wasn't the champion of the Philistines because he was a giant. He was the champion because he was their best fighter, a champion, not just a foot soldier. There were many giant races before others committed genocide against them, making the huge genes more recessive today and rare. Goliath was the son of Rapha, descended from the Raphaim, a race of giants, being brought up in Gath, an ancient stronghold of the Anakim, who were also a race of giants. Suggests that he had some Anakim relatives. Maybe his dad was Anakim, making his champion status even more significant in the ancient world. So here are some images of some tall people, but they're not just tall, they're proportionately big people to show that Goliath wasn't just tall. That's not what makes you a giant. He was big, like Shaquille O'Neal big, right? Only 2.5 feet taller maybe than Shaquille. So here Shaquille O'Neal is at 7'7", standing next to The Rock, who's around 6'5", 6'6", and as you can see, he makes The Rock look like a kid in that picture. And on the other side there, you've got Brian Shaw, who's 6'8", I believe, next to Mike Tyson now, who now he's around 5'10", but in his prime he was around 5'11". So there you go. It just shows you how huge somebody can get just with a few inches. Proportionately in size, they dwarf other people. So yeah, Goliath and other giants from Gath were there, and they didn't have growth hormone issues like Wadlow or many other tall people. Gath giants were more like strongmen competitors, big, fast, strong. It was in their genes and their diet. They didn't have genetic issues. So here's Shaq with Wadlow. Again, as you can see, this is a model of Wadlow. The guy science says is the tallest in recorded history, and we all know this isn't exactly true. There are many giants in history that were taller than Wadlow, even taller than Goliath. There were mounds, burial sites in early America that were grave robbed, and recorded skeletons and dried up mummified bodies were pulled out of these graves taller than Wadlow. Anyway, sorry, I get sidetracked when I start talking about the falsities of Hollywood and science, so I'll do a video about giants at some later date, but this one's about Goliath, so let's get back on topic. So, the last disputed fact about David and Goliath is that David killed Goliath with a sling. That's not true either. David hit Goliath with a sling. David was around 5'6" to 8", somewhere in there. Wiry frame, very, very good with a sling, so he could shoot those rocks out of there at the velocity of around a 44 Magnum equivalent. So how do I know this? Because they're still used today, and here are some pictures as examples. People actually still use them. They're very dangerous weapons, a shepherd's sling. And that did knock Goliath down, but the Bible then says David ran up, pulled Goliath's sword from his sheath, and cut his head off with it. And that's what killed him. Even with David's strengths and skills and abilities, Goliath should have mopped the valley floor with him. Yeah, without God's help, I really think David would have lost that battle. So, anyways, that's going to do it for this one, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to BMO Creative. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.